All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Martha Alter Hines, and I'm here yet again with this beautiful group of beings to do another soul wisdom conversation today. So, if you are finding this circle for the first time, we gather together every quarter-ish. That's what we've been doing to come into space together, but really to invite all of you to come into our hearts and to come into soul community, to drop into the wisdom that we each are. I mean, those of us here, who you can see on this recording, but really every single one of you. So what I always like to do is very deliberately and consciously invite you to bring yourself into this circle. Because we really are trying to hold the space and the reality that we are all equally needed in this moment of the planet. We are all equally wise. We are the wisdom of existence itself. Every single one of us, every single one of you. And so we're really trying to just hold that energetically. So please, we would love for you to consciously bring yourself here and join us. And today in this circle, we have Maura McBratney, Melanie Reinhart, Julia Balaz, Heather Ensworth, Dawn Brunke, Anne Baring, and myself. And we have previously had Kelly Hunter, who has needed to move on to do some other things right now. But we just want to say thank you so, so, so much to Kelly for having been part of this circle. And we're sending you all big hugs and love. And yes. So today I'm going to be facilitating. So what we've been doing is we tend to rotate who facilitates. Today it's going to be me. And our theme today is really timely, I think, especially given that we just had equinox. It's going to be a theme around waiting and kind of the time in between, because I think a lot of us are feeling a sense of waiting for what? I don't know what. Waiting or being in an in-between state. So that's going to be our theme today. And to help us get started, I'm just going to help us drop in to the circle, and then we'll get to hear everybody's heart wisdom. Okay. So yes, again, everybody, every single one of us here on the recording, and then every single one of you joining in with us, please, again, I invite you to join us, feel ourselves all around the globe coming into this sacred space together, the reality that we are in this moment of this time on the planet together. We've all chosen to be here. We are all incarnated. We are all in earth bodies right now for a reason, for a purpose. And we are all here and we're doing this together. So, taking a long, slow, deep breath, I invite you to feel yourselves landing, feel us each landing as a being of Gaia. Feel the reality that our bodies are Gaian beings. And then feel the light at the back of your heart, like the seed of your own divine blueprint, your own divine truth, your own divine essence, and the intelligence of the divine that is you, specifically you. And then taking another long, slow, deep breath, invite you to feel that light, the light codes that are you, the divine intelligence that is you, lighting up in the back of your heart and extending through your whole body with these light codes, similar to the growth of a plant coming out of a seed. So those light filaments reinvigorating your whole body, connecting you with the intelligence of the divine that is specifically you. And then feel those filaments of light extending beyond your body throughout this globe, this earth, beyond this earth, to the grid, the light grid of all of time, all of space, to what I experience as a womb or a chrysalis of the whole time space continuum. You can feel it however it feels for you. And then I invite you to feel and experience in your own way what I feel are these massive beings, benevolent beings continuously holding the whole time space continuum, like these ultimate Cheroklo energy beings, these beings who hold the healing space of all of time and space. That healing, they create like a healing circle for everything. They're incredibly powerful. They're holding all of us, and we are them holding all of us all at the same time. And then I invite you also to call in and to feel and to remember each and every benevolent being throughout all of time, all of space, and every single dimension. Feel how there are infinite benevolent beings holding the whole time-space continuum, holding this planet, holding you, your own spirit team, benevolent ancestors, beings of every realm, every planet in this solar system, the star that is our sun, all of the other cosmic beings, the very alive beings coming into our solar system, coming closer to our sun and our earth right now, beings we can see with our human eyes, and infinite beings we can't necessarily, but we can feel them. We are them. And if there are specific beings you feel called to name, to invite into the sacred circle together, I would invite you to do that. And if anybody here on the recording wants to name any, I'll pause for a minute. You can do that if anything calls to you. And what I'm feeling is the light of the heart of Gaia lighting up at the center of her being, and she knows all these infinite benevolent beings, and I'm feeling her just welcoming everybody home, welcoming everybody home back to this time of great remembering that we're all in. And that includes each and every one of us. So if that resonates, you can feel Gaia calling with her own song, welcoming you back home to this time of great remembering, and helping the light codes of you wake up and remember the truth of the time of great remembering, each in our own ways. And connecting in with the presence of the oneness that we are, and also the uniqueness that we are, and the connection we have through all of time and all of space with everything. And that includes us here on this call, that includes everybody joining in through the recording, and that includes literally everything. And I will then set the intention that this time together and that the ripple effect of this time together serves only each of our individual and collective absolute, radical, highest good, and the highest good of the all that is. And so it is. Amen. Okay. So yes, so our theme, again, waiting or the time in between. Does anybody feel immediately like you're ready? Otherwise, I'll just go around the circle. Dawn, do you want to go first?
I was going to raise my hand, and then I thought, oh, I'll just see
There we
what
go.
happens. So, September, it's the 1 year anniversary of my husband's death. And when I look back at this past year, I recognize that I've really been in a cocoon. Not a lot happening on the outside, but a whole lot of transformation on the inside. So it has been a period of waiting for sure, and of learning to be patient, and of learning to be comfortable with that in-between state. About a month ago, I dreamed I was meeting with my inner selves. And this isn't something new. I had made the acquaintance of many of them in more conscious ways over the past year. And we were all very jovial in the dream. You know, we were gathered around my kitchen table, which seems to be always the spot where we meet. And we noticed we were missing one self. And she was a very young child, and we knew she was needed in the group, but also that she was frightened. So in the dream, I got up from the table and I started to look for her. And I climbed down a short ladder to the basement of my being. And there she was, this very young self crouched in a dark corner of a crawl space. And I sat with her, and there were no words. It was very calm. We were just sitting together. And after some time, she put her hand in mine, and it was so gentle, so light, you know, light as a feather, soft and light as a feather. And together we climbed up the ladder and we went back to sit at the kitchen table where the other selves were gathered. And when that happened, I became lucid in the dream. And I was aware, oh my gosh, there's a magic in our being together like this, especially with this young self. And she began to laugh. It was that high crystal, joyful laugh that some children have, you know, when they laugh with just utter abandon. It was almost like a tuning of sorts, right? And it triggered something. And we became a very lively, talkative bunch. And we were all telling our stories at once, our individual stories. But at the same time, we were able to hear the stories of each other. They were all coming together. And at one point, we had shared enough and we just put out our hands. It was very natural. We joined hands and there was an amazing calm. You know, it was one of those, you don't even realize how excited you were and happy and shh. It was this very calm, silent presence, and it was flowing between all of us. And I felt the top of my head vibrating, you know, sparkling, right? It's like all these little tiny champagne bubbles right at the top of my head. And in that moment, everything was so open. We were seeing each other. Each of us was fully seen and known and valued, right? And it all happened so easily, so naturally. It was just remarkable to me. And as I woke up, I heard a voice. It was almost as if a voice was speaking in my bedroom. It was so clear and so resonant. And it was speaking one of my favorite quotes from Lao Tzu. And the quote is, by letting it go, it all gets done. The world is won by those who let it go. But when you try and try, the world is then beyond the winning. And that got me thinking about one of the central kind of concepts that Lao Tzu and the other Taoists speak of, which is called Wu Wei. And sometimes that's translated as effortless action. And it's really about flowing in harmony with life, huh? Kind of not opposing it, not attempting to control or change things, It's very much not about inaction or apathy, but really about acting from a space of inner calm. That like the one I felt in my dream. So after that dream, I thought it was a good idea to play with Wu Wei, this idea of, in a more conscious way, the idea of flowing with life in a more conscious way. And the more I did this, the more I sensed a lightening. I began to feel myself more lightly, not only less dense physically, but really more filled with light. And that brought something else to mind. It took me a day to remember what it was, but it was a description about this. And it was from Aldous Huxley's last novel called Island, probably my favorite of his. And the short story is it's kind of about a jaded journalist who ends up on this island called Paula and is very much transformed by the kindness and compassion and wisdom of the people who live there. So I had to look it up in my book. In the book, one character is helping another shift from, feeling stuck and confused and heavy and sad to flowing with the Tao, to living more in harmony with what's happening. So here's that quote. It's dark because you are trying too hard. Lightly, child, lightly. Learn to do everything lightly. Yes, feel lightly even when you're feeling deeply. Just lightly let things happen and lightly cope with them. Lightly, lightly. It's the best advice ever given me. So throw away your baggage and go forward. There are quicksands all about you, sucking at your feet, trying to suck you down into fear and self-pity and despair. That's why you must walk so lightly. Lightly, my darling. And I love that quote. Well, I love Huxley in general, but his quote reminds me that, light isn't always dramatic or brightly glaring, right? There's this calm light, a soft, quiet light, a kind of softly smiling light. And I think we can perceive that when we let go, as Lao Tzu says, right? When we let go of trying too hard, trying to force things, and we open to light, to flowing with life. And I think when we allow that to happen, we really open to a different frequency, something that resonates really deeply within us, something that welcomes us home, something that reassures us that no matter how things look on the surface, as if nothing's happening at all, or as if much too much chaos is happening all at once, no matter how that looks, we're exactly where we need to be in this moment of now. And I think that's really good advice at this time in our world, when we're all in this holding pattern, this kind of cocoon, unsure, unsettled in both our collective and individual transformations. By letting it go, we begin to flow with life. We deepen, we expand, and we find ourselves living with more awareness, more aligned and in tuned with others, with our planet, with ourselves. I think we begin to feel life flowing through us. We begin living life in a new way, lightly, lightly. Thank you.
Julie, I'm drawn to you. Do you feel like you would like to go next, or you don't have to?
I was in the contemplation all afternoon. What can I contribute? And there's so many different ideas that come that belong to other wise speakers. And at one point, it felt like a tornado of ideas while I'm at the center witnessing it all. And all I feel I can contribute is just being in presence of a witness. And in that experience, I am in awe, admiring the alchemists that are sharing space with me today, and also feeling, sensing the collective that is drawn to our circle, and knowing them, knowing you, the viewer, also as an alchemist. And I want to pay my respect and deep gratitude for the immense amount of growth and evolution that occurred on our individual and collective level. And I deeply believe that if only we knew the extent of the growth inside all of us and the magnitude of light and the strength of the light, the wisdom that we are now anchoring on earth, we would all be down to our knees crying in celebration of the new era that is already quietly but powerfully being established. So I also want to thank everyone who is choosing to continue anchoring that deep presence of peace, witnessing that quiet but patient waiting for things to manifest in our physical reality while the old is still crumbling and doing its best to call us into it through fear. But no, lightly but powerfully, we hold space and trust and know, we know deep in our hearts, our souls, the network that has been established on this planet. Nothing can pass through it as we move forward. So I just continue to be in awe and hold my space, hold my position, and in my knowing, in my faith, and feeling the celebration in my heart for the connectivity and greater harmonics that we're playing together. So thank you all.
Thank you, Julia. I don't normally want to jump in with something, but I just want to second that. I really want to second that. And I want to honor, um, I want to honor everybody, who's in really difficult times too, or is moving through things that feel really, really, really challenging. And I want to name, yes, I am witnessing so much radical transformation in this community and people I'm working with, and I'm sure other people are seeing similar things. It's really, really, really astounding. And I think that's so, thank you so much for saying, I think it's really important to take a moment to name that, yes, I mean, of course we have struggles, and of course people are in, really difficult times as well. Completely honor that. And yes, the changes I've seen in people over the last year, 2 years, et cetera, is even the last 2 months is astounding, right? And what if we could highlight that? Here we are, we're highlighting that. Yeah. Amazing. Yes. 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 Thank you for saying that. Um, Heather, do you want to go next?
Wonderful to be with all of you. Thank you. And to be a part of this community, as you were saying, Martha, I am so moved by the way in which I see the possibility of healing and moving into higher consciousness happening in such an accelerated way right now. And thank you, Dawn, for talking about taking it all lightly. Because I think if we can keep remembering that we're soul selves, we're infinite beings having this human experience, then we can hold it more lightly. And Julia, you really tapped into something that I think is an absolute key in this time of transition, which I don't see as a time of waiting. I see it as a liminal time, a time of radical transformation. It's less about outer activity and more about inner change. And that a key in the midst of all of that is trust. And I do believe as we're in this liminal time, we are being guided to come to center, come back to connection with our hearts. Remember that it's in the liminal time that we are able to do the deepest healing and transformation. it's not a time where nothing is happening. It's a time where everything is unfolding, but coming from that transmutation from within. And as we trust that and allow ourselves individually and collectively to be in this profound time of alchemy, as you said, Julia, then we can find the true gold in who we are and emanate that and be guided in to this new age, the age of Aquarius, but also this radical new shift into higher consciousness. And as we're in this time, to me, I love that understanding of liminal. The deeper root meaning of that word is threshold, doorway. That we're in this transition where part of the challenge is to let go of the patterns of the past. And our egos love a sense of certainty, stability, the illusion of control, and doesn't want to let go of the past. And part of what we're seeing in the world right now is the turmoil of some not wanting to release these paradigms of the past, even though they've been profoundly destructive. And as we can be in this process of trusting this liminal time that we're in and dissolving and allowing ourselves, like the caterpillar in the chrysalis, to be in the mystery of the not knowing. We can no longer identify with the forms of the past, but we don't fully see who we are becoming. But when we can trust and know that we are held by the energies of the earth and sky, I am profoundly moved by the way in which the energies of the earth herself, the comets that have come into our solar system, the configuration of the planets, they're trying to say, from my perspective, in neon lights, you are held, you are loved, you are guided. Trust. Trust. So one dream I had recently was that I was with a community, a group, and we were being guided through this rock tunnel. It was like a opening in a side of a mountain where we were entering from one side and moving through this mountain to, we didn't know what exactly we were moving to. And as we were in this process, I remember feeling so powerfully, the key is align with the winds, be with the currents. Then they will carry us through this tunnel to what we're emerging into. But as I was moving through the tunnel and feeling that dance and process of just attuning to the energies of the currents, and like an eagle or a hawk, just letting myself be in that flow, I also saw people moving through the tunnel flailing and trying to control their movements and trying to manage the process. And they would hit the walls and get out of balance and had trouble getting through. And it also just so reminded me of the birthing process, that it is about feeling the compression, the intensity of the transition, and trusting that it is not about death, it's about rebirth. And the last thing I want to say is I love that Saturn is the guardian of the threshold. It's literally the planet in our solar system that is at that threshold between visible and invisible reality. And Saturn has been in a dance with the three outer planets, being in conjunction, guiding us through this transition. In conjunction with Pluto in 2020, we know the transition that was happening then and the death of the old forms. Now in this dance with Neptune moving into exact conjunction with Neptune in February of 2026, dream into being the new forms. And then June of 2032, Saturn will be conjunct Uranus in the upraised arm of Orion in the sky. Order emerges out of chaos. It is the time of resurrection. So as we're in 2025, emerging from the Kali Yuga, the time of the lowest level of consciousness, we are being so guided by the guardian of the threshold. The ancient understanding of Saturn is Enki, the god of sweet waters who knows how to move between the worlds. And we are being held and guided to move through this liminal time that I see as 2025 to 2032 into resurrection, into new forms, new ways of being, if we trust and if we flow with the currents guiding us and carrying us into new ways of being and seeing and into a new way of being human. Blessed be.
Thank you. Melanie, do you want to go next?
When I was contemplating this afternoon in preparation for our meeting, I felt that I had truly nothing to say. Unusual for a Gemini, right? What's coming into this space for me now is something about the mystery and the power of the present and our being present to the present, so to speak. Because most of us, I guess, most of the time are tempted by thoughts of the past or thoughts of the future. And certainly, out there in the world, there's an enormous pressure pulling people into obsessing about the future. So it's like a whole hurricane of prophecy, right? Threatening to draw people's energy out from the present moment into the future. And there's also a lot of focus on the past. Some of it really quite interesting because it does allow one to see patterns and to recognize echoes down the halls of history, you know. And so that's mostly about gaining information or knowledge or being motivated by a wish to control things. You know, like if I only understand better where we're coming from, historically, politically, etc., I would understand things better now, and that would help me to feel more in control. Or if I can only find somebody whose prophecies are reliable, be it an astrologer or somebody who's just intuitive with it, or a scientist, or an economist. You know, there are many people who do a lot of predicting at the moment. And that's the kind of a seesaw, which, you know, the whole energy of the equinox always makes me think about that, is like, oh, you know, because the balance point, as it were, of any pair of opposites, it is like that point in between that is both neither and also both. So it's neither in the sense that's kind of obvious, but it's also both in the sense of the kind of widening and expanding that can occur if we can kind of step through into that nanosecond of opening into the present. And for me, there's a deep mystery right there, because there is often a place of unknowing. And that, so the not knowing can even extend into a feeling of almost not existing. And that can feel really scary. So it's a sense of spaciousness in that moment that opens up in that nanosecond. It's like when we hit the present, so to speak. In that moment is infinitely big, as well as just a nanosecond, you know. And that can feel deeply spacious. So that's our, I was going to say, launch pad into inner space. But the kind of image of a thrusting rocket isn't quite how it works, in my experience anyway. You can't kind of light a fire and roar off somewhere and enter that particular sacred space. It's more like a subtle kind of letting go, which itself can generate effort, trying to let go, or critical voices getting involved and letting us know that we're not letting go, and we should be letting go, because that's the way to the present or enlightenment or whatever the sentence is, okay? So, in that aspiration to be simply present, you know, what many of us might notice en route, because actually, well, no, that's also the wrong language, because there is nowhere to go. But it can be very interesting to notice what happens as that precious space of entry approaches. Typically, we start kind of meddling or interfering with our own experience as we go. So, for example, you know, we should be more clear in our mind or our heart. We should be more compassionate in our heart or our mind. And a whole string of really subtle shoulds and oughts, and instructions from people whose views we might respect a lot, or books we've read that have really turned us on, you know, in a very sneaky, subtle way. Any or all of the above can turn into voices that keep telling us what to do and how we should be. And it's all for your own good. This is why I'm telling you, kind of approach. And so getting out from under that, again, if taken lightly, like Dawn outlined so beautifully, if taken lightly, that can be a deep work of the heart, you know, seeing what kind of frantic displays of need to control and all that our poor little ego gets up to, right? Earlier on, I had the image of like a little freaked out kitten. That's like the ego going berserk when we try to really get quiet and open up to the vaster cosmos or whatever. Something in us can turn into the little kitten, you know, with its claws out and its eyes wild and scratching and hanging on, you know, and so forth. I use that image too because I have maybe it's a kind of It's a dream companion. If I have had many dreams about cats. I love cats. And for me, the cat kind of comes to me as a direct reflection or gives me information about what my very personal, vulnerable child self might be thinking or feeling about a situation. Something that if I'm too busy or I'm going too fast or things get too intense, I just miss, you know? So then in comes my dream cat. So, I know that if my dream cat looks vital and healthy and cute and whatever, but basically all is well in the way. And, if I see a kind of scrawny cat looking a bit miserable with, fur a bit rushed up and so on, I think, oh my God, no, I have to really attend to this. And so the image of a little cat, as we sit down and invite a sense of presence or begin to enter feeling of emptiness, then the ego or patterns of familiarity can rise up like a freaked out little kitten. And then, like, what do you do if you have a little freaked out kitten on your hands? You maybe take it in your hands and go, there, bring it some milk, listen to it purring and so on. Give it time to calm down. And I think the same is true with these radical shifts that so many people are going through. The moment, the amount of time and care it takes to process what's going on and just to allow the integration and the feeling of one's whole nervous system and energy bodies and so forth, just to kind of settle down. So for me, that image of the little freaked out cat, and so normally cat's movement is so fluid, and this little tail and everything like that. But if a cat gets really freaked out, it's like all its little legs, they go really stiff, and the head doesn't move and so forth. And so that's also a signal from the animal world, as it were, that if we pay really close attention to how we are feeling in our own physical bodies, there might be places where we're feeling, like an alarmed little cat, but desperately trying to have it not be that way. So maybe we do an exercise or we run around the block or so on and so forth. Whereas, what the little cat might need is for us just to sit and feel that freaked outness and just give it time to unravel. So I guess, what I'm wanting to say is that although the transformation process that we're referring to, it's fast and furious sometimes, and very, very intense. The need for us to find that waiting time, that slow time, so that, so the little cat can kind of calm down a bit. I feel that's very important for me, and I know I'm not the only one. I had a much beloved cat when I was a child. Its name was Tinky, and I could tell you some charming stories about Tinky, but I won't take your time with that.
Thank you, Melanie. I feel it. Feel it, my own heart being soothed as you're describing
Oh,
that. Thank you.
well, you're allowed to purr.
Yeah. Yeah. Purring is very healing. Yes.
No, literally.
Literally. Yeah. Wonderful. Um, Maura and then Anne. do you want to go next?
Yes, I hit the wrong thing.
Oh, okay.
And so, wow. So my body is your cat, Melanie. I mean, that is so much where I am right now. And I also, when I was reflecting, I am very, I'm very one step in front of the other, literally, right now, because I'm still healing from all of the surgeries and trying to get stronger. So my focus has been on doing whatever is necessary to be able to walk again unaided, to be able to move again with some ease and not pain. And I realize everything else just has to kind of go by the wayside right now because that's my focus. That's what I've been given to do, is to bring myself back into some level of vitality again. And it's not the first time, and it is, and the waiting is so perfect because I don't know exactly where I'm going to be when I get done with this. I don't know if everything I'm doing in the exercises and the PT and the all is going to make the difference. They say yes, probably, but I don't know for sure where my body's going to be when I'm finished. So it's holding this juxtaposition of knowing I need to do these things and then also knowing I need to rest. There's days when I just go, okay, I can't. It's not for me to push myself or my body to do these exercises or to do that walk that I have to do, that everyone says I have to do. And I do have to do that. But I also need to wait and let my body tell me what she needs and what my psyche needs and what my soul needs to keep myself nourished. And that was also part of when we were talking about the theme of waiting from the hexagram, the number 5. In that is nourishment. What part of the waiting in that description was about nourishing, self-nourishing. And I think that's so essential at this time when things are so chaotic everywhere. Internally, externally. I mean, there are, as everyone has spoken so eloquently, so I'm not going to go through that again, but there's such huge changes that are going on in a way that it affects us. It affects our bodies. It affects our souls. It affects our minds. It affects all of it. And how do we stay? How do we keep coming? What do we do to keep coming back to center, to be able to do what's needed in the moment, needed at that time, but not to overextend ourselves to the point where we can't do anything else. So for me, it's been dancing on the head of a pin a little bit because I'll go, okay, I can just push myself a little bit more, and then I'm like, uh-oh, next day, can't do it. So it's attending to what's present, attending to what I need, attending to what the right things are to do, and at the same time knowing that there's deeper things going on than just recovering the physicality. But there's deeper things going on in my psyche at this point of reclaiming my vitality. And so yeah, I try not to pay attention to what's going on externally in the news too, because that's a way of doing it. But at the same time, I feel like we were talking about earlier. I mean, we need to at least have. I like to watch to see what the patterns are that are unfolding, so that we can see how we're going to move through those as we are moving through them, but not to get sucked into the fear. Or if we do, like you've said so eloquently, Melanie, you know, we acknowledge it and go, okay. And then expand past that to say, this is what is right now. What is right now for me is I have a body I'm repairing. And it's a lot of work. And there's days when I'm doing those exercises that I go, I don't want to do this. But that's not the right thing for me at this point. I have to attend to myself. Because if I don't do anything, I won't recover. And if I do too much, I'll go into something else. So I see it as a metaphor. It is what I'm living. but it's also a metaphor for life in general, to know what our limits are, to know what we need, to know how to attend to ourselves, to know what our bodies need, our psyches need, how we nourish ourselves through all the different ways that we can nourish ourselves. So one day it's going to be one thing, and the next day it's going to be something else. It's not always the same thing. So if there's any bit of wisdom I can say at this point is, if you're in a more difficult place right now, that physically or emotionally or financially or whatever, because there's a lot of pain going around right now, just hold knowing that you are held, and that if you do the things that come to you from your own heart, your own center, little by little, one step at a time, something will emerge at some point that will be more the wholeness that you need. And that's what I hold to. So it's holding that place of imbalance that you've talked about, of there is something else, there is this pain or whatever, and staying in the center is what's going to give me, and hopefully all of us, that place of being able to emerge into what's next, what the new form is, what the new energy is, what the new impulse is to create, whatever that is. So I did print off a poem from John O'Donohue, who I love very much, and it's called The Interim Time. When near the end of the day, life is drained out of light, and it is too soon for the mind of night to have any darkened things. No place looks like itself. Loss of outline makes everything look strangely in between. Unsure of what has been or what might come. In this wan light, even trees seem groundless. In a while it will be night, but nothing here seems to believe the relief of darkness. You're in this time of interim, where everything seems withheld. The path you took to get here was washed out. The way forward is still concealed from you. The old is not old enough to have died away. The new is still too young to be born. You cannot lay claim to anything in this place of dusk. Your eyes are blurred and there is no mirror. Everyone else has lost sight of your heart, and you can see nowhere to put your trust. You know you have to make your own way through. As far as you can, hold your confidence. Do not allow confusion to squander this call, which is loosening your roots in false ground, that you might come free from all you have outgrown. What is being transfigured here in your mind is your mind, and it is difficult and slow to become new. The more faithfully you can endure here, the more refined your heart will become for your arrival in the new dawn. That is how I feel right now. So
Thank you, Maura.
thank you.
Anne.
Thank you so much, all of you, because I've been greatly enriched by what each of you has said, and also comforted, because I also, like Maura, have been through a difficult patch with a great deal of pain. And I'm asking how much longer I could go on if I don't have relief from the pain, that sort of feeling. So I've been in that space. But what I loved so much, what Dawn said about Wu Wei, because I had a Chinese or a lovely godfather who had lived in China all his life, and he came back to Monte Carlo when he was very old, and he taught me when I was about 18 and 19 all about the Taoists and about Wu Wei. And that really stayed with me all through my life. He was an extraordinary man. And he lived in the mountains and grew his own strawberries with warm stones. So he had vegetables and fruit when nobody else did, sometimes in the middle of a cold spell.
anyway, that memory is there. And also I loved Heather's expression of the liminal time that we're in, because liminal is a very important, significant word. And it just helps to have that word because it gives you strength to stay in the liminal time. And as for that poem by John Donne, I think that was marvelous. And I think that I've also thought, well, as you were speaking, that we're in the albedo stage, the second stage of the alchemical process. We've really been through the nigredo in a sense, or we've seen the nigredo all around us. But the albedo is the time of whitening. It's the time of water, of the watery dimension coming into our consciousness and just being almost relaxed in the water of the great sea of being. And that gives one a feeling of just beingness and trusting that what is happening is fine and that we're being guided, as all of you have said, which we are, and of trust, which Heather mentioned very strongly, which is most important. Trust is very, very difficult to have when you are frightened or when you're gripped by that ego, which says you have to be in control. So all this, and there's great, in my country, the UK, there's huge changes taking place as the collective are waking up and they're beginning to say, who are we? Who have we become? And why have we lost the sense of what we were in this country in the beginning? And they're recovering it. It's very moving to see it happening. They're recovering it because they feel threatened by something the government has done just very recently. And they're coming together to say, we will not stand for this. We are who we are. And our beingness will not tolerate this imposition on our being. So this is very moving to watch. And it's very, as I have got involved in it in certain ways because of my grandson. I want to help him to understand what's going on. And it's all really, as I say, I've been so helped by everything that you've said. I'm going to see a pain man on Wednesday to see whether something could be done for that. It's not hip pain, it's sciatic pain. And that can be very troubling at night, particularly. So this is what I'm sort of working with. This is the little cat that Melanie spoke about. It's really sort of miserable, all curled up in a ball and it needs stroking. So I should do a lot of stroking tonight. And I've had cat dreams too. And also there's a woman next door who feeds hedgehogs, cats, and a fox. She's literally within 100 yards. And she has a cat called Bee. And when I go there, the cat comes and wraps itself around my legs. It doesn't like to be touched. But if it wants to show interest in you or that it quite tolerates you, it will come and wrap itself around your legs. And it's got lovely, lovely fur, really healthy fur because she feeds it the best sort of food. And anyway, I think of that cat when I'm thinking about my own cat, thanks to Melanie. So thank you all so much for what you've given me, and blessings to everybody who is listening and to our group as well. And thank you, Martha, for being here for us and guiding us and leading us through these wonderful meetings, because they are tremendously helpful. And I'm sure they're helpful to the people who listen into them. So thank you.
Thank you, Anne. So interesting, the themes that are coming up and what I'm being asked to share. It's a really funny coincidence. Okay, so I'll just preface this by saying something that's been alive for me is noticing in my own life that for 20 whatever years, I was a clinical social worker. So I did a lot of work and and I was also a massage therapist and a hands-on healer. So I did a lot of, you could say, hands-on, literally hands-on or more involved kind of helping work for a long, long, long time. And I think a lot of us have these skills that we've developed as humans, right, in so many different ways that are amazing. I mean, I definitely take a lot of those social work skills into the work I do, including holding a circle. I mean, I learned how to do that way back in grad school and, group therapy. This is not group therapy, but there are all of these skills that we've developed that are really, really wonderful and helpful in this time. And at the same time, I think for me, part of this waiting theme or the liminal space is what I get guided to over and over and over again is two things that are kind of related to each other. Number one is a huge part of what's been coming through in my own channeling and my work and all of that is this reconvergence of the beings of the infinite dimensions, right? So like whatever it happens to be, inner earth beings, fairies, gnomes, star beings, light beings, the angelic realms, you name it. I mean, just everything. All of a sudden, what they're telling me at least is that the veils have been lifted and that it's like kaboom, they're all coming back. And that's what I personally feel in these comets coming through and, Three-Eye Atlas and all of that is that to me is another representation of the fact that it's all coming back all of a sudden. And because, at least in my experience, these other realms have countless, infinite ancient tools that are now rushing back into our own remembering, and they have literal medicinal history, right? So like ocean beings, show me their medicinal history, and the inner earth beings show me their medicinal history, and the stars have their, incredible literal beings who are doctors, right? And they're all rushing back in right now, and they're waking back up in us, each in different ways. And then the other thing that I get told over and over and over again by my guides is, we need you to remember that you are a keeper, and we all are keepers of, and we literally physically are, the infinite possibilities of light. So because, every element in the periodic table other than hydrogen and helium was created in nuclear fusion within stars. So literally everything in our body is made out of the stuff that came out of stars. We know this, right? So, so as we're in this moment on the planet, one of the things that I feel called to over and over and over again, even when I'm in moments when I'm having a lot of fear or a lot of anxiety, like earlier this week, I had a couple of days after the solar eclipse where I had so much anxiety in my body. I could not figure out what the heck was going on. It was really uncomfortable. And then I recognized for myself, oh, wow, it was because I'm in this big change moment in my own life. And it was, my body was feeling that. But what I keep getting brought back to is the fact that both we have all these amazing, amazing tools that we've developed as humans, and there's so much more that is opening up to us that is literally rushing back in to our remembering. So anyway, the thing that I was getting told the other day in my prayers to offer to anybody this resonates for is so fascinating, the perfect timing of what Maura and Anne are, dealing with, and just maybe any of us. What they're asking me to offer is, essentially, we can imagine ourselves and just come in and into our bodies and remember that reality that every element of the periodic table, other than hydrogen and helium, is created in nuclear fusion within stars. So you can just like imagine all of our cells are literally made of stuff that came out of stars, right? So we're literally made of light. We literally are. And what they're showing me is if we're in those moments of fear, we're that kitten, or we're like your hip is hurting or whatever it is, we're having literal pain, physical pain, emotional pain. We're in that moment like I was earlier this week of just my whole body was almost shaking just from bizarre anxiety. I couldn't figure out what in the world was going on. To one thing we can do if it resonates, is just like Melanie was showing us, to bring our hands to our body, to our heart, to whatever part of us is calling to us. And of course, we can just be a healing presence for ourselves, of course, or do Reiki or whatever it is that we know how to do. But another element you could add is this reality that through all of our cells is what we're waking back up to, the reality that we are the infinity, the infinite possibilities of light that maybe we're suddenly remembering, right? And let the light itself like talk to the kitten, or like soothe the kitten, or like hold the kitten, right? Um, it's an element of ourselves holding ourselves, but it's like infinity holding us too. Yeah. So I just that's been personally helpful to me. So if that happens to speak to you, great. Wonderful. Okay. Very good. Well, we are definitely over our time, so I'm going to help us close. But is there anything that feels like it has to be said before we close? And Julia's dog is demonstrating this all very well.
I'd just like to express so much gratitude for everything that's been said and everyone here in this circle and everyone who's listening, because it's all very profound and helpful on so many levels. So thank you. Much gratitude.
I second that. Yes. And please, everybody, share with us in the comments too. I mean, we would love, love, love to hear your input and your wisdom. Yeah. Okay, well then I'm going to help us close out. Yeah. So again, we can feel ourselves in this sacred circle together. Everyone here live, everybody joining in through the recording. We can feel that those particles of light that are ourselves individually and all of us collectively just surging back into the reality of ourselves as the one, as source, as the divine. Feel how we are held by countless energies, beings, the solar system, the beings moving through our solar system, into our solar system, and then also so far beyond this solar system, this whole galaxy, every star, every galaxy, every being seen and unseen throughout time and space, all of the infinite beings, benevolent beings of every dimension of this earth, of every realm of existence, and beyond that, into the void, the powerful benevolence, wisdom that we each are, that is holding every single one of us individually and all of us collectively. And feel how, again, we have chosen to be here. We are here in this moment when the world is in this change time. And we are needed, every single one of us. And we can release anything and everything from this time together that does not serve each of our absolute radical highest good and the highest good of the all that is. And then allow to anchor in anything and everything that does serve each of our absolute radical highest good and the highest good of the all that is. We can feel the particles of light that do serve the highest good dancing with us, permeating, nurturing, and nourishing us deeply, giving us every single thing that we possibly need in each and every moment, helping us to know that we are never, never, never alone. It's impossible. We are always together, always held, infinitely loved, infinitely cherished, valued, seen. And we can feel those particles of light permeating the whole time-space continuum, holding all of time and all of space, and blessing everything. And so it is. Amen. And blessed be. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody here, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. See you again soon.
Thank you all.